As naturalized citizens, there are things that we experience that you guys don't, which is normal, right? You haven't lived our perspective, right? And so what we've experienced our whole lives is when we say we're not born here, everybody goes, ha ha, you can't be president. Now they don't mean any harm by it. They've read it in 8th grade in a civics class. We also read in 8th grade that Pluto was a planet. Turns out it's not, but they remember that. It might be back to a planet, right? And that's for the scientists to decide, and this is for the Supreme Court to decide. I brought the 14th Amendment here because it's so clear. It says all persons born or naturalized have due process and equal protection of the laws.
What you saw right there was presidential candidate on the Democratic side, Cenk Uygur, arguing his case before New Hampshire's Ballot Law Commission, trying to get access to the ballot. This is a big, complex legal matter that in this particular case, despite what he said, and you should definitely track down the video, some good arguments there, was not successful on. Now, we wanted to get an update on the situation in New Hampshire as well as in other states. Ballot access is a really contentious issue, so we are joined by Mr. Uygur now. Welcome to the show.
All right, thank you, John. First of all, yes, we have an issue that I was not born in this country, and a lot of people say, "Well, I read it in the Constitution, so that settles it." Does it? Here's something else that's in the Constitution, that black folks are 3/5 of a human being. That doesn't mean that it's settled. What that means is, hey, there were amendments later. The 14th Amendment is the one that got rid of that. And by the way, in the 14th Amendment, it doesn't say, also, by the way, black people are not 3/5 of a person. It just says everyone has equal protection. In fact, it says all persons born or naturalized have equal protection. So they did not have to clarify every discriminatory part of the Constitution. They clearly said naturalized people have equal protection. They didn't say equal protection, but we'd still like to discriminate in some parts, and you should read that into our minds. No, it's absurd. Now you lose, but I want to be clear, we didn't lose in that appeal in New Hampshire because of the constitutional issues. We lost on a technicality. They said, yes, well, okay, yeah, but you changed the form, and in our statutes it says you're not allowed to change the form at all. And I said, well, the form is wrong. It actually cites the wrong part of the Constitution, even if you were correct in your interpretation. They're like, yeah, we would let the others cross that out, but we're not letting you cross it out. Okay, no problem. Injustice, an outsider being made invisible. I've lived with it my whole life. But guys, don't worry. We're gonna get on ballots in a lot of states, in enough states to win. Everybody thinks it's not doable. Watch. The minute we start getting on ballots, you're gonna see, oh, it turns out it is doable. And John, if I get on any state ballot, which I definitely will, it will be the first time that a naturalized citizen is on a presidential ballot. And that's a tiny bit of history, and we might make that history as early as this week.
So I'm glad that you clarified the situation in New Hampshire. It's too bad that they weren't able to see fit to, like, because I remember in the video, if everyone watches, you directly appealed to New Hampshire as a state that has this sort of aura and history of being very important and concerned about democracy and all that. And you appealed to them just to allow the legal situation to play out. And if the Supreme Court ended up knocking the whole thing down, then that's what they're gonna do, but that they shouldn't be the ones to throw up that roadblock. And it is unfortunate that for that almost technicality, they chose to be that roadblock. But what I'm interested in, you're talking about the process to get on the ballot in other states. So is there the same sort of issue in ballot access on some of the other states that you're pursuing that there was in New Hampshire, or is it more free? Do you have a strategy for which states you're targeting?
Yeah, so even though the first two states had this issue on their forms, a lot of the states don't. And in a sense, it's kind of ideal for us. So let me explain why. Because you want to be let on the ballots in most of the states, which appears to be the case. We'll see if that's how it plays out. And by the way, guys, it takes a lot of money to get on these ballots. You either have to be like a multi-millionaire, or maybe have folks who really believe in you, cenkforamerica.com. Like in South Carolina, they asked for $20,000. In Alabama, you have to collect enough signatures that it winds up costing you $10,000. So these things are really expensive, and we got the legal fight. But the reason why I say it's ideal is because you want enough ballots to accept you so that you can win, but you want some states to reject you so that you can bring it to court. And so, and in the courts, it works in the exact way that you would imagine, except greatly expedited. It goes district court, circuit court, Supreme Court, and you just got to get one of those courts to agree with you so that the Supreme Court is forced to take up the issue. And so if enough states reject us from the ballot, then it's in our hands. We don't have to wait for anyone to sue us. We can take it to court and get it adjudicated in time to win the election. So you say, oh, well, that's a hard needle to thread, but it is entirely possible, no question about it, because they must expedite the case before you guys are worried about, hey, what if we elect Cenk, but it turns out he can't serve? No, that situation is not going to happen. What's going to happen is a resolution before the great majority of the vote.
Well, so do you have an idea of like the next set of deadlines that'll give you some clarity on at least one more of these states?
Yeah, this week we got South Carolina, Alabama, Arkansas. We already met all of their deadlines and we met all of their qualifications. They have absolutely no reason to reject us. If they do, it'll definitely be a problem for them as well as us, because that would be an unbelievable injustice for no reason at all. And we would have massive issues with that. But it's entirely possible that those 3 states plus Michigan might come in as early as this week and say, yes, he's on the ballot, he's done everything right.
Okay, well, in a moment we're going to turn to a general talk about your candidacy, and we're definitely going to talk about your stated sort of goals in running for the presidency. But in your appearance before the Ballot Law Commission, you also mentioned how many other naturalized citizens had reached out to you. Was that like wanting to engage in this legal battle? Was that a big part of the initial impetus, or is that a growing part now that you're engaged in the legal battle?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. So look, the number one reason I got on this race is because Joe Biden's definitely going to lose. And there's more polling out today. It's just an absolute disaster. Only 16% of Americans think that they're better off economically under Biden. 55% think they're worse off. I mean, this is political malpractice to go in with this candidate against Donald Trump, who I believe is a genuine fascist. So that's the number one reason I got in the race. Number 2 was when I realized, hey, we all believed in this mythology that a natural born citizen can't run. And when I read the law review articles and I read the law case on it, I was like, oh, this is awful. It turns out we can run. It's just no one understands that, has comprehended that, has bothered to think that through at all. And so, but then when I got into the race to the point you're making, John, then everybody started reaching out going, Cenk, you're not alone. Like, this thing seems like a minor thing. Oh, you can't run for president, so what? It's like saying, oh, you can't be CEO of GM. What's the big deal, right? No, it's a giant deal, because it isn't about the title. It isn't about being CEO or president or your ego. No, it's about the fact that it makes us second-class citizens. And everyone constantly saying, ha ha, you can't be president. I mean, 700 naturalized citizens have received the Medal of Honor. So many naturalized citizens have died for this country, but they're not good enough. They're not American enough. They're second-class citizens, and they can't. Saying you can't be our leader is saying you're not really one of us. And it's the last form of discrimination. And it might seem minor to others, but to 25 million naturalized citizens, it is not minor. It's a terrible injustice. It makes us feel like we don't belong. And it's honestly kind of disgusting. No one thinks it's logical. Everyone thinks it's ridiculous. And then the minute you read the 14th Amendment, you go, wait a minute, how much clearer could they have been? Born or naturalized, due process, equal protection. They didn't stutter. They didn't leave out naturalized. They were crystal clear. So let's be done with this discrimination. And there's no way that you could be done with it until you challenge it in court. So someone like me has to do this. And so you know me. I'll be your huckleberry.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.